In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the steps of creating an Alexa skill in under 5 minutes using either NodeJS or Python as the backend using AWS Lambda. And I'm going to actually tie in the implementation effort with this small stopwatch I have beside on this desktop. And before I start the stopwatch, let me take a couple of minutes to introduce what we are going to do here. So we are going to require you to have an Alexa developer account registered already, along with an Amazon AWS account. If you do not have these, you can register for them free of charge by visiting these links. And you also need a SLAppForge Sigma IDE account, which is free of charge as well. And optionally, you can use GitHub, Bitbucket, or GitLab to commit your code into a version control system. But for the demonstration, I'm not going to commit the code. I'm just going to keep it in my IDE in memory and just show it to you in action. So I'm not going to install any software on my account, although I'm going to use Node.js and Python. The browser is going to be my only piece of software I'm going to use. I'm going to use the Chrome web browser to load my Sigma IDE. And if you are going to follow through to the end of this tutorial, I'm going to also show you how you can use the Sigma IDE to iteratively test code updates. Within about 3 seconds after you make a code update, you can see it live on Alexa. And you can also debug your Node.js based Lambda backends live as they execute on AWS. I'm going to show that as well in the final part of this tutorial. So that's going to be outside of the 5 minutes, but during the initial 5 minutes, I'm just going to show you how to get started with a voice user interface for my Alexa application, and also with a Python and Node.js backend implementation, and how I can tie these together and get started with Alexa. So the voice user interface is going to be where I define the intents I have in my Alexa skill and the utterances I'm going to use to invoke these skills. And the backend Lambda function is going to be invoked by the Alexa system based on the intent I issue. And the backend is able to respond back to my front end VUI or the voice user interface with the responses I provide. So I'm going to use my Chinese zodiac year as the skill. So it's going to return back the Chinese zodiac animal for a given year of birth, and it's going to be something like a horse or a pig, etc., based on the year of birth. And during the latter part of this example, I'm going to also tap into DynamoDB, where I have a table already created called Chinese animal with the different birth years, the animals, and personality traits. And I'm going to return those as well through my Lambda function. And I don't need any other software. I'm just going to use the Sigma IDE and its drag and drop capabilities to do that. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start my stopwatch, go into my Alexa developer console and start creating my skill. I'm going to name it the Chinese zodiac animal. I'm just going to copy that text. I'm going to keep custom as the model and provision my own as the backend. And if it asks for a template, I'm just going to say start from scratch. And it will prompt me with a basic Alexa skill. I'm going to define a custom intent called Chinese zodiac without spaces. I'm going to create the custom intent and provide the sample utterances as what is my Chinese zodiac animal for the year. I'm going to provide year in curly braces, making it a slot, and add that utterance, and I'm just going to give another utterance. What is the Chinese zodiac animal for the year? And I'm going to select this existing slot which I defined earlier. Add that second utterance and come in to the intent slots and provide Amazon 4-digit number as the slot type for this occurrence, for this slot. and save the model, and I'm going to invoke a build model, and I'm going to go into my Sigma IDE, create a new skill called Chinese Zodiac. I'm going to show the Python implementation first, create project, and I'm presented with an empty Lambda function. I'm going to go into my utilities, Lambda scaffolding. I'm just going to drag it and drop it into my code pane, and a basic Lambda function is created along with the Alexa dependencies. Next, I'm going to drag a launch request handler, which is going to be invoked when I launch the Alexa skill. So I'm going to say welcome to my Chinese Zodiac animal in Python as the welcome text, and the code accordingly is going to be generated for me. I'm just going to drag an error handler as well, and just going to leave it as default. I can further customize this if necessary. Finally, I'm going to create a custom intent handler for the custom intent Chinese Zodiac, which is the same intent I gave in the Alexa developer console. And I'm going to change this code to read the slot value year, which I provided earlier in the Alexa developer console. And I'm going to say this is my custom intent handler for the year and plus year. So finally, I'm going to delete the handlers which I did not define in this example scope. So I'm going to leave the launch request handler and add my Chinese Zodiac handler, which I defined as the custom handler. I'm going to finally go into the AWS resource and come in here. The build has completed, and I'm going to select the endpoint as an AWS Lambda ARN, copy the skill ID, and drag an Alexa skill to this Lambda function, Lambda handler, and provide the skill ID so that the Lambda function is linked to this skill ID, and this icon will turn green. And I'm going to deploy this function, which is going to take about a minute because it's the very first deployment. And after this first deployment, the code changes are almost going to be instant, with about 3 seconds to update the code and to see it live on Alexa. So let's check on the time, 4 minutes, 13 seconds. And once this is complete, I'm going to get the ARN of the Lambda which we deployed. I'm going to copy it, come into my Alexa developer console and paste it here and save the endpoint. Now I can go to the test console, turn testing on, open Chinese, open Chinese Zodiac animal.
Welcome to my Chinese Zodiac animal in Python.
Okay, within 5 minutes I have completed the implementation. Let me check it in action as well. What is the Chinese Zodiac animal for the year 2002?
This is my custom intent handler for the year 2000.
Okay, so I think unfortunately my voice was not recognized properly. So let me change this text. Say, okay, your Chinese Zodiac animal is something else. So let me show you a code change, how fast you can apply code changes. You can say your animal Chinese Zodiac animal for the year, and this I'm just going to say quick deploy, and in 1, 2, 3 it's deployed. I can come back to my Alexa and ask what is the Chinese Zodiac animal for the year 2002.
Your Chinese Zodiac animal for the year 2002.
Okay, so I'm going to move into the second part of this tutorial. So this is going to go beyond the 5 minutes. I'm just going to minimize the timer, and I'm going to show you how I can go through testing. I can copy this sample JSON input into the IDE as a test event, which I can name, say, invoke 2002, and I can keep running this example from within the IDE and see the output in action. So I don't need to involve the Alexa developer console anymore. And next off, I'm going to show you how I am going to drag a DynamoDB resource into this line where I'm going to compute the speech text, and it's going to ask me whether I want to create a new table or choose an existing table. So let me take you to my AWS account where I have a Chinese animal table created with a birth year, which is a number, and an attribute called the animal, which is the Chinese zodiac animal for that year, along with a couple of personality traits. So I already have this table defined, and if I want to include it in my Alexa skill, I'm going to go into existing table. I'm going to select the table from the drop down. I'm going to select the operation get document, so I don't need to remember the API for this call. I'm going to say pick the primary partition key from the variable called year and inject this code for me. And the code is injected along with the dependency to invoke this API call using all the AWS libraries. And here I'm going to say your Chinese zodiac animal is, and I'm going to get the value from the data, and item and animal, and it's going to be of a type string. So let me try that with the built-in testing capability. Okay, it's working. Your Chinese zodiac animal is a horse. So this is showing the tail end of the Lambda function executed in AWS, in live AWS. So I don't need to go into the CloudWatch logs and search for this output when I'm testing. And now I'm going to deploy this function again because I dragged the DynamoDB resource onto my code palette. So it's going to also generate the minimum security policy to invoke the DynamoDB operation through this Lambda function. So all that is going to be done for me. I don't need to, meddle with the command line interface or edit YAML files or any configuration files for this. Everything is done by the IDE for me. So once that is deployed, I will be able to invoke the application again from my Alexa developer console. And it's done. So I'm going to go back. What is the Chinese zodiac animal for the year 2002?
Sorry, your skill encountered an error.
Okay, I think you just need to refresh this because I did a complete deployment of the Lambda function, and sometimes the Alexa developer console gets out of sync. Open Chinese zodiac animal.
Welcome to my Chinese zodiac animal in Python.
What is my Chinese zodiac animal for the year 2002?
Your Chinese zodiac animal is horse.
Okay, so I'm going to do a code change now to return the personality traits as well. I'm going to say wanna know something else. You are, and I'm going to get data. I think it's personality traits. Let me just check that. Personality traits. And it's a string as well. Oops, I forgot one item. So I'm going to just test it again with my local test capability before I deploy it into live environment. Okay, so I can see that in action. So I'm going to do a quick deploy, and in 1, 2, 3, it's deployed. I can ask Alexa, what is my Chinese zodiac animal for the year 2002?
Your Chinese zodiac animal is horse. Want to know something else? You are animated, active, energetic.
Okay, so that's the basic Alexa skill development in Python. So let me take you to doing the same thing with Node.js. So I'm going to close this. Oops, let me make it more clean. I'm just going to undeploy this project and start my timer again for the Node.js. So let me skip the creation of the voice use interface. And create a new project. With this same name. So I don't have to change anything on the voice use interface aspect because I'm going to use a Lambda function with this same name. Okay, the project is almost completely undeployed. I'm going to open a new project called Chinese Zodiac. And I'm going to leave the primary language as Node.js and create a project. Again, oops, I forgot to start the timer. So let me start the timer. Delete everything from my project. Go into the utilities and drag Alexa Lambda scaffolding. It's going to generate the basic code and add the dependencies. And I'm going to drag an error handler with the default text. If I want, I will customize the error handler. And I'm going to drag the launch request handler. Welcome to my Chinese Zodiac email in Node.js. Inject. And my custom intent handler, which is going to be named Chinese Zodiac. It must match exactly the name I gave the intent in the Alexa developer console. And I'm just going to copy this as my custom request handler and add it here and delete the unwanted lines which I have not defined. Okay, I only have a launch request handler and an error handler. So this seems okay. And I'm going to change this to read the slot value as well, which I'm going to define as year. And I'm going to change this text to return along with this slot value and deploy. Oops, I forgot one more thing. I need to link up this skill IDE with the Lambda function. So come to the endpoint, copy the skill ID, go into the AWS resources where all the AWS resources are defined, and drag the Alexa skill into this main Lambda function handler and paste this skill ID and say inject. This turns green and I deploy the project. So everything will be done for me. I just need to wait until it's deployed. And once it's done, I need to update the Lambda function ARN into the endpoint of the Alexa skill. Just wait for a minute or so. Okay, copy this ARN, paste it here, and save the endpoint. Go to test. Open Chinese zodiac animal.
Welcome to my Chinese zodiac animal in NodeJS.
What is my Chinese zodiac animal for the year 2002?
This is my custom intent handler for the year 2002.
Okay, so this is working perfectly and we have more time. This is because I didn't create the voice user interface component of my example, so it would have taken a minute and a half maybe. So again, we are right on time. In less than 5 minutes, I can see a Node.js backend with my Alexa skill as well. So let me close this timer now. I'm going to copy this sample request into my IDE and show you some additional things which is available for Node.js. I'm going to create a request year 2002 and I can run it from within this as well, and it's going to return that hard-coded text. I'm going to change this code to fetch the year from the DynamoDB table. So I'm going to drag DynamoDB into the location where I want the code generated. Select the existing table, Chinese animal, operation as get document, and the value to be read from the variable year, and inject. And as you can see, the code to generate or to invoke the DynamoDB table is generated, and the dependencies for the libraries, the AWS SDK, and the necessary definitions for the libraries are in place. So here I'm going to do a couple of changes. I need to convert this into a number because the DynamoDB defines this as a number, and I'm also going to define let speech text. I'm just going to initialize it, and here I'm going to compute the speech text like this. Your Chinese zodiac animal is a data dot item dot is data dot item dot animal. So let me test this with my built-in test invocation. Oops, something is wrong. Okay, I know what it is. It's because I have used the default code generated is using async in the async mode. So I'm going to place async into my handle method and run this. Okay, my Chinese zodiac animal is a horse. I'm going to deploy this now. And as with the Python example, since I have done a change of the resources, I need to do a complete deployment. It's going to take around a minute or possibly less. So as you can see, you can drag API Gateway, DynamoDB, RDS, S3, all of these AWS resources as well as other resources, even from Google Cloud Platform and other third-party items. You can drag them to generate the code, and you can also quickly look up the documentation for these API calls from within the Lambda code pane. Let me show you that as soon as this completes. Okay, this is complete. So for example, if you want to look at the documentation, you can come here and bring the mouse here or control click and be taken to the necessary documentation. If you want to customize this API call further, maybe by providing additional or advanced attributes for different calls, etc. So you don't have to remember all the API methods. You can just invoke them after dragging these operations as necessary. So I'm going to go back into my Alexa developer console. What is my Chinese zodiac animal for the year 2002? Okay, I think I might refresh this just so that it will be clean. Open Chinese zodiac animal.
Welcome to my Chinese zodiac animal in NodeJS.
What is the Chinese zodiac animal for the year 2002?
Your Chinese zodiac animal is a horse.
Okay, let me show you how I can change the code again with NodeJS. I'm going to say, wanna know something else. Currently you are, I'm going to say data dot item dot personality traits. So let me test that. So let me invoke a test invocation, and I can see the changes are in operation. So okay, I forgot to do a quick deployment. Let me do the quick deploy. 1, 2, 3. What is the Chinese animal for the year 2002?
Your Chinese zodiac animal is a horse. Want to know something else? Apparently you are animated, active, energetic.
Okay, so let me ask the zodiac animal for an year which is not in the table, and actually it will come into this catch error block which I have not defined. So let me change that to speech text. As you can see, autocomplete is there. I'm sorry, I do not know the Chinese zodiac animal for the year. Okay, let me try this. Okay, so it returned, I'm sorry, I do not know the Chinese zodiac animal for the year 1975, and I'm going to invoke it from my Alexa developer console. Okay, let me do a quick deployment. That's what I forgot. And ask, what is the Chinese zodiac animal for the year 1975?
I'm sorry, I do not know the Chinese zodiac animal for the year 1975.
Okay, so let me see how I can debug this invocation. I click on this debug, and the first time I'm asked whether I would like the debug line to be injected into my code. So what I'm going to do next is copy this debug URL which is presented to me and paste it into a new tab on my Chrome Chrome web browser, and it will start the Lambda function in debug mode and attach my Chrome debugger into the executing Lambda function. So as you can see, the execution has stopped at the debugger line. I'm going to put a couple of breakpoints to these two lines where I define the speech text, and when I'm hit with an error, I'm going to let it run onto the first breakpoint. And I can see in the call stack, my year is read as 1975. So let me continue on to the next breakpoint. And I can see the data does not have an item. And in this line, I'm actually referring to an undefined item. And because of that, I'm going to get an exception. And that's why I'm actually, going into this exception handler. So I can step through and debug and look at the call stack or have a watch, etc. And I can let this program resume. And that's the live debugging of the Lambda function with the Sigma IDE. So that's it for this scope of the today's tutorial. And if you have any questions, feel free to connect with us and let us know what you think. Thank you.